Hi friends, this is Mainak Misra and welcome back to my channel. Today I will discuss with you David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is one of the most dynamic and well-made films of the 21st century. Even though it is based on Swedish author Stig Larsson's famous bestseller, international bestseller psychological thriller of the same title, Fincher has created it in his own style. An investigative journalist of the famous Swedish magazine Millennium loses a lawsuit against a corrupt Swedish businessman. Another renowned Swedish industrialist offers the journalist a large sum of money in return for resolving the mystery of his niece's disappearance 40 years ago in 1966. However, initially the journalist doesn't agree to take on this task. Then the industrialist promises to reveal some crucial information about the corrupt businessman. Finally, the journalist agrees to take on this task and ultimately resolve the mystery of his niece's, the industrialist's niece's disappearance 40 years ago during the Children's Day parade ceremony. However, the young female assistant of the journalist, Lisbeth Salander, proves to be outstanding during the investigation process. She is an asocial computer hacker or computer geek with a giant dragon tattoo on her back. Her persona, outlook makes the film look dynamic, thrilling, and very stylish. The film starts with the journalist losing the lawsuit against Hans Erik Wennerström, a corrupt Swedish businessman who uses his money for some corrupt practices, antisocial activities. And during that time, the industrialist Henrik Vanger seeks to unravel the mystery of his niece's disappearance 40 years back in 1966 during the parade ceremony of Children's Day. The name of his niece was Harriet. Nobody knows anything about Harriet now. And then his lawyer's Frode arranges for an asocial computer hacker, Lisbeth Salander, for validating Mikael Blomkvist, an investigative journalist's credibility, whether he'll be able to do that job or not. Lisbeth hacks his computer and finds out that yes, he is a credible person. She gives a positive certificate. And then Henrik Vanger meets Mikael Blomkvist and offers him a large sum of money in return for resolving the mystery of his niece's disappearance. But initially, Mikael doesn't agree to take on this task. Anyways, Now he is in an embarrassing situation after losing the lawsuit against Hans-Erik Wenstrom. But when Henrik Wenger promises to reveal some crucial information about Wennerstrom, Mikkel agrees to take on this task. He discovers a notebook containing a few names and numbers, which appear to be phone numbers in the Wenger family compound. However, nobody has been able to decipher those names and numbers till now. And in the parallel subplot, the state has appointed a legal guardian for Lisbeth Salander because of her mental instability. And that new guardian is Niels Bohrmann. Bohrmann is a sadist and tortures Lisbeth to the core. He beats her, makes her perform fellatio, and rapes her anally. But Lisbeth records this heinous crime with her hidden camera inside her bag. And one day she appears uninformed and avenges the torture on her, the brutal torture on her. She binds Borman's hands, rapes him with a dildo, and creates a tattoo. I am a rapist pig. She threatens him that she will make that video viral if he does not give positive feedback on her progress. She also gives an ultimatum of 1 year to get rid of the state authorized guardianship for the full control of her accounts and finances. Mikkel meets Henrik Wenger, who informs him that he had three brothers, Richard, Gottfried, and Harald. Richard and Gottfried died before Harriet's disappearance. Harriet actually Harold's daughter, and he has one son, Martin, who runs the Wenger Industries now. And Anita was Harold's daughter. Harriet was Gottfried's daughter, but Anita is Harold's daughter. And she was very close to Harriet, and they used to visit the cottage very often. And Mikkel moves into that cottage and discovers Harriet's Bible. And there were 5 names inside that Bible and numbers. But again, he initially is not able to decipher those names or numbers. Lisbeth hacks his computer, and then Mikkel reaches out to Lisbeth and convinces her to join the investigation. She discovers that those names are actually Jewish names, and the women who were murdered in between 1947 and 67 were also Jewish. So there must be a strong sense of anti-Semitism behind those murders. However, they are not able to crack only one name. Inspector Morrell finds out that name, that woman, was Gottfried's personal secretary. And she was murdered in 1965, just before Gottfried got murdered. And when Mikhail watches the photographs of the children very closely, he suspects that Harriet must have seen somebody on that day that made her leave early from the parade ceremony. And when Mikhail watches those photographs carefully again and again, he finds out that a woman captured those photographs from the parade side of the street. And then he reaches out to that woman and finds out a hazy photograph of a man. So you can connect the dots that Harriet must have seen somebody. She got frightened. Something is linked to somebody present in that venue. However, they don't know anything about that. Initially, they suspected Harold to be the culprit. Then Elizabeth secretly visits Wenger Industries and checks the accounts and receipts and finds out that it was Martin and his father Gottfried who traveled to the murder location exactly on those dates. So now the circumstance is very clear. Martin and his father Gottfried must be behind those murders. Michael Blomkvist secretly visits Martin's family compound for the investigation purpose. But Martin entraps him, binds him, and makes him unconscious, applying gas, and confesses in front of him that he and his father Gottfried committed those murders in between 1947 and 67. However, Martin did not kill Harriet, his own sister. He doesn't know her whereabouts after that. But Martin tries to kill Michael, and that time Elizabeth appears there, hits Martin with a golf club, and saves Michael. And then when Martin tries to flee in his car collides with a gas tank, killing him on the spot. Lisbeth and Michael conclude that Harriet must be alive and they trace her back in London. She informs them that her own father, Gottfried, sexually abused her continuously when she was 14 years old. And when she killed Gottfried, Martin started doing the same with her. Anita smuggled her out of Sweden to London. Unfortunately, Anita and her husband died in a road accident. And since then, Anita has been using, Harriet has been using Anita's identity. Martin is now not there in Sweden. He got killed. So Harriet safely returns to Sweden and tearfully reconciles with Henrik Panger. As promised earlier, Henrik shares those crucial information with Michael about that corrupt businessman Hans Erik Wenstrom. But those information turns out to be outdated. Lisbeth hacks Wenstrom's computer, his bank accounts, and finds out that he is using his money for antisocial activities, corrupt practices. Michael Blomkvist writes a detailed report about these ill practices of Wennerstrom in the newspaper, in the news magazine, Millennium. But Wennerstrom gets killed in a gang fight. So this is the story. Screenwriter Steve Zalian has done an outstanding job in converting Stieg Larsson's 500-page novel into a 150-page screenplay. Even though the setting is Swedish, Steve Zalian has made his own mark on the screenplay. It took 6 months to complete, and 3 months were devoted only for analysis and research. David Fincher has also made it in his own way. However, both Zalian and Fincher have not been diverted from the fact that the novel has a very strong theme of a strong misogynistic theme, a theme of torture of women. And in the same way, Fincher's film also carries an intense theme of torture of women. Initially, as usual, Daniel Craig was considered to play the role of Michael Blomkvist, investigative journalist. There were multiple schedule conflicts. However, ultimately he was cast for the role. He had to get rid of that British accent to a more neutral accent and had to gain body weight. He did an outstanding job as investigative journalist Michael Blomkvist. Multiple actresses were considered to play the role of Elizabeth Salander, and ultimately Rooney Mara was selected to play that role. He had to get piercing done, bleach the eyebrows into white color, dye her hair black. She had to practice smoking and bike riding. So all sorts of things she did, and ultimately she appears to be very confident. In spite of Lisbeth's multiple vulnerabilities, Mara portrays the character as confident, very stylish, and that fits also in that atmosphere during the duration of the film. And regarding the cinematography, Jeff Cronenworth's cinematography perfectly complements Fincher's vision. It's very dynamic and thrilling cinematography. He plays with lights and shadows. However, Cronenworth doesn't fill the film with unnecessary lights to enhance the aesthetic of the film. The chilling Swedish winter makes the film look gloomy and eerie, but again I am saying that Cronenworth did not fill the film with unnecessary lights just to bring aesthetics into the film. He brilliantly captured distinct personalities of both Michael Blomkvist and Lisbeth Salander. And the direction, screenplay, and cinematography all were perfectly complemented by Baxter and Wall's editing. Amazing editing. And he brilliantly joined both the subplots. Michael Blomkvist's investigation and Berman's torture of Lisbeth Salander. He also joined consecutive sequences, consecutive scenes brilliantly throughout the runtime of the film. Reznor and Ross's music, which is a mix of acoustic and electronic music, resonates with the thrilling and eerie atmosphere of the film. Tim Miller's title sequence hints at the brutal torture and tremendous mental agony Lisbeth Salander goes through. Amazing film, and I think you should not miss this neo-noir psychological crime thriller. I think you've seen many crime thrillers, psychological films, but I guarantee you this film stands out. A brilliant film by David Fincher. Thank you so much for watching this video. A request goes again that please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss regular updates. Thank you so much.